Here we go. Roll video.
I think anybody creating something new must have an adventure.
It's not cinema, it's something else.
My advice to a young filmmaker is to make a movie every week.
The whole bag of movies can be learned in about a day and a half.
But suspense is essentially an emotional process.
You gotta make films. You gotta make it and get it seen.
Cinema for me is a world of when I dream.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Behind the Slate. I am your host, Aaron Strand. It feels so good to be with y'all here to talk about movies, bring some footage and some content from our last live show at a brand new venue. But before we get into all that, I want to tell you about a few changes we got going on here at the show. We're kind of in a constant state of evolution with Behind the Slate. And so here's what it's looking like going forward. Number one, Behind the Slate is slowly but surely migrating to Substack. I think in the very near future, all the podcasts are going to be hosted exclusively on Substack. I look forward to supplementing those with some writing and some kind of think pieces about the film and more, also just these live events that have become the core bread and butter of the show. If there's anybody who's been listening to this show from the very beginning, you know, we started off as this long form historical biography podcast. I love that format. We had a lot of success with that format, but unfortunately, as I have taken on more work as a filmmaker, one has to ask, how many unpaid jobs can I do simultaneously? And the sort of dissertation level research that format was requiring has fallen by the wayside. So it has transitioned into what has become a really exciting and kind of new form of communication for me, which is these live shows. At this point, Behind the Slate is fully a live event podcast. That is the core of what we do. It's about connecting with people in real life, in physical reality, and cultivating these spaces to connect over the films and the art and the medium that we love. So I'm excited to keep building that, and I think that moving over to Substack and sort of this enhanced video component that we're now bringing to the shows will all help further those ends and that design, if that makes any sense. Now, other news is a little bit sad. Crash Zoom, the sister podcast that I started with Sammy Purcell, has ended. The last episode came out this week. I love doing that show, and I know Sammy did as well. You can listen to our last episode as we sort of wax poetical about the journey that we've been on. That show was, I think it was really, really valuable. It helped me learn how to craft an opinion, and it also got me even more deeply invested in the modern news of film and television and media in general, something that I will continue to invest in going forward because I think it's so critical for a working artist to understand the business of the world that they operate in. Unfortunately, just straight up, the show did not build the listener support that we had hoped. And I have a few ideas as to why that might have been the case, but you know, we had to kind of look at the numbers and see where things were heading, and we were not reaching our goals. So we mutually agreed that show had reached its kind of natural conclusion, but Sammy and I, of course, remain friends, and we're going to keep talking about movies well into the future. It just won't be on mic for y'all. In other news, if you have listened to this show for the Withdrawal series where I talked about the production of my feature film Withdrawal is still chugging along. We just finished a little Georgia tour. We played at Atlanta Underground Film Festival where we won Best Local Feature. The following week, we played at the Athens Film Festival, a bit of a homecoming for our film considering that it was shot in Athens. We won Best Narrative Feature. We won the festival, which was incredible. And then this past Sunday, we played down at the Macon Film Festival, an amazing festival down in Macon, Georgia. I was on my way there when, unfortunately, my car died. And I had to be towed back to Atlanta, and I did not make it to the screening, which really was very, very disappointing. But I heard it was amazing. Millie Rose Evans, lead actress, always repping the film, always does so much work for us. She was there in person, had some family down there in town. I think they had a great time. And then we had an amazing local partner, Centenary Community Ministries, that does amazing work in the sort of harm reduction space. They run a transitional house for men. They're actually out there on the front lines saving lives every day. So Always love partnering with those groups and organizations and look forward to doing that more in the future. We're now on to Japan next month at the Kanazawa Film Festival, where Withdrawal will be playing on September 20th. So if anyone's tuning in from Kanazawa, go check it out. I hear the subtitlist had a great time translating this film into Japanese, so that's all exciting. Last but not least, big changes. I got a new baby on the way. New baby coming any day now. Waiting for the drop of this new kid, and I can't wait to enter into my sort of paternity leave and new baby time. It is such a magical time, and low-key, it's also the time where I get to watch more movies than any other point in my life, because ain't nothing better than watching a movie with a sleeping baby on your chest. So a lot to look forward to. Now, let me get into the show here. The following footage and presentation that you're about to see is from our screening of the original Godzilla, the 1954 version, not the 1956 American recut with Raymond Burr, that we played at Ciné Theater in Athens on August 7th. This was our first ever show at Ciné. It was our first ever show outside of the plaza as Behind the Slate is beginning to grow. And man, the spirit of cinema was alive in that theater that night. It was amazing. Being the first show in this venue, I was kind of thinking the theater holds 120 seats. Let me say that. It's a 120 seat house. I was thinking, man, if we get 80 people out here, that would be really good. That's a really good floor to begin growing a regular screening series on. I think that would encourage the theater to see that we're serious about our marketing campaign. But man, Athens showed up and showed out. We sold out the theater that night. Packed house. People were stoked to see the movie. It was just amazing. Now, why did I pick this film? I've said before on other podcasts and around Godzilla. I mean, I was obsessed with Godzilla as a kid. All right, let me just get that out here. But Godzilla, the original, I think it was really like my baptism into cinephilia. Going to video stores in the 90s, my grandma would take me. Going into the horror section to find the Godzilla movies, or going into the foreign section to find the Godzilla movies. Sometimes I'd get a tape and it would be subtitled instead of dubbed. You know, all these things introduced me to the world of film. It got me comfortable in video stores. It got me comfortable with subtitles. It got me comfortable with styles of film that were not, just what was coming out in the theaters at the time. This acclimated me to an entire lifestyle and film diet that has continued to sustain me to this day. So I owe a lot to Godzilla, and I do think that Godzilla 1954 is a genuine masterpiece of cinema. Now, I didn't just pick it as our very first screening at Ciné for personal reasons. I also picked it because I have seen the evidence. These movies still work. There is an incredible enthusiasm for these films among movie lovers and Godzilla fans in particular. But more than anything, there's something about these films that people really want to see on the big screen. I mean, naturally, giant dinosaur attacking cities, it's a spectacle. People want to see it, but there is some extra magic that is a little bit hard to describe. But Godzilla on the big screen is an incredibly compelling offer as a repertory sort of screening event. So I was somewhat confident on the choice. I knew that picking the original would maybe be a little bit risky. It's in black and white, it's in Japanese, whatever. Like maybe people wouldn't come out, but no, people were stoked, and I love to see it. Now, since then, I got this goofy take on this movie, okay? I've dropped it on a couple other podcasts. It's a take where I think that Godzilla is a feminist revenge film. Basically, it's building upon Slavoj Žižek's theory, and maybe he didn't come up with it, but he certainly talked about it in his film essay, The Pervert's Guide to Cinema, that in order to understand horror films, you must remove the horror, or as he would say it, you must remove the horror from the film. He takes the horror element out of the movie, and whatever human drama you're left with, that is actually the prism through which you should be understanding the horror, right? Take out the monster, you're left with the humanity of it all, and you then can understand the monster as a sort of symbolic expression of that humanity. And I've always thought it was interesting that Godzilla was a film about a young woman named Emiko being pulled in all these different directions by three men in her life. And so if you were to remove Godzilla the monster, you'd be left with this kind of love triangle story about a young woman being pulled in all these different directions. So, you could read the film as like the monster is actually an expression of her feminine rage living in a patriarchal society, right? So I have this goofy take that Godzilla's a feminist revenge film. Obviously, I know this movie is about nuclear weapons and nuclear testing. Like, I'm not an idiot, but I did put out a little clip of me giving this take on Instagram at Behind the Slate Pod and on TikTok at Behind the Slate Pod. And man, this shit blew up. It blew up, mostly it was a lot of love, but like anything that blows up on the internet, there was also a lot of hate. I got a lot of people in the comments saying that I'm an idiot, saying that I'm whitewashing this film, saying that it is a disgrace to plaster over, this terrible tragedy that happened in Japan by putting my some sort of male feminist take on it. And all I got to say is that y'all need to lighten the fuck up. This is a movie. I did not say the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was an expression of feminist rage. This is a horrible, horrible tragedy that throughout multiple events and screening series, I have gone through great lengths to help modern audiences understand the scale and scope of the horror that the American bombings of Japan, not just even the atomic bombings. I mean, I also go in detail talking about the fire bombings of Tokyo and the fire bombings of 60 other Japanese cities that happened over the course of 1945 in multiple screening series, because I think the entire post-war Japanese film canon can't be discussed without focusing on these very, very horrifying facts that are basically like the scariest thing that I personally could ever imagine. But in this case, I'm talking about a movie with a guy in a rubber dinosaur suit. And I'm not talking about the bomb, okay? And so for all of you who are coming at me, I think we need to lighten the fuck up, enjoy a movie. And, if you're a movie lover and you don't have a ridiculous take about a movie you love, I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. You just are. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. Okay, but let's move on to the positive things. The more I keep doing these live shows, the more encouraged I get. I think that the theatrical system that we've grown up with, at least from the 80s, the sort of multiplex version, I think that's going away. I think it's dying. And the reason why it's dying is because it's too impersonal. Speaking of Godzilla, I went and saw the Shin Godzilla 4K re-release the other week. I went to a multiplex back in my hometown with my in-laws, and we went late at night. There was like 2 people working in the whole building. I go in. They got these reclining seats that take up the size of a king-size bed. So there's only like 20 seats in the whole theater. I get to my recliner. It's broken, of course. They don't even turn the lights down in the movie theater while the movie plays. The sound is off. And of course, nobody's monitoring the film. So none of these things are ever improved. It's just such a whack experience. It's so impersonal. Drives me crazy. And the magic of going to a cinema and the sort of value proposition of why should somebody sacrifice, their 2 hours of film time plus maybe an extra 30 to 40 minutes of travel time to and from the theater. You got to deal with parking. You got to deal with all these little inconveniences to go to a theater. What Ted Sarandos of Netflix would call, an inefficient distribution system. The reason why you do all that is for those little moments of human connection with the other people who came to the movie with you. It's for the lobby discussions after the film. It's for the eye contact you make with people as you're getting ready for the movie to start. And if you're lucky, it's for the shared laughter, the shared gasps, the shared tears even that you get to experience in a cinema with others. It is about human connection. This is what's going to save the theatrical screening system. I truly believe it. We here in Atlanta have an incredible community of partners and people who are putting on these various events, and we're all experimenting with this model and seeing that it works. But this is the future of theatrical screenings. I really do believe that. And that is why I am enhancing the video component of this podcast. I know I've been talking here for a while. We're going to get to the actual footage from the night. But I want to explain the reason why I'm leaning more into the video distribution of these events. I want to enhance the video capabilities of the events. I want to do more of the sort of lobby interviews and the post-film discussions and stuff like that. And I want to put that out there is because I want to reach people that maybe are living in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, Wyoming, Montana, what have you. Maybe their local multiplex, multi-screen theater has closed. And I want them to be able to experience, if anything else, just vicariously through the events that we're doing, the kind of human connection that is capable within the walls of a traditional movie house. This is not supposed to be an exclusive thing that you can't get into. That might work for, some really, really cool theaters in Manhattan and in Brooklyn that are invite only and you have to be cool to go, and they give a very sort of exclusive air. Trust me, I cut my teeth in the New York nightlife world. I know all about the power of exclusivity and how cool it feels. But that ain't the stage of my life right now. Like I am not cool right now. I'm a 36-year-old struggling filmmaker about to be father of two. Okay? Right now, my mission is about accessibility. And I believe that we need to make these films accessible to everybody. And not just the films. We need to make the experience of coming to the cinema and feeling like you're a part of a group having a shared experience, a group where the boundaries between people is melting away and you're able to talk to each other after the film. That's why we do these audience discussions, is to facilitate that feeling after the movie is over. And just like a great meal, it's the company that you enjoy the meal with that make it memorable. I want you to think about all the greatest meals you've ever had in your life. And I guarantee you're going to have a harder time remembering what the food tastes like than you will the people that you enjoyed it with. And I think that the American diet in food and in movies and in media is all fucked up. We eat too much salt, fat, and sugar. It's ruined our taste buds. If something doesn't contain salt, fat, and sugar in high amounts, we can't even taste it anymore. And it's the same thing with American movie tastes. TV and these big budget blockbusters have attuned our palates to only expecting these sort of immediate reward systems in our brain. And we are incapable of appreciating and enjoying the subtler flavors that are possible within well-crafted cinema. Now, the food world, they've got this really great thing, which is the Michelin Guide, right? You got the Michelin Guide out here telling everybody, no. You don't want to be eating at McDonald's. You want to be going to this fancy restaurant, at the side of a building in the middle of, the forest of Portland, Oregon, right? And people who aspire to have taste, who aspire to, be a well-cultured individual, and who, see it as an expression of their sort of wealth and their prowess or whatever, are willing to take the risk and going out to the restaurant on the side of a building out in the forest in Portland, Oregon, because they want to have a curated experience. Well, we don't have trusted tastemakers in the film world anymore. The Oscars used to be that, but it's gotten all kind of confusing and weird. The film festivals maybe used to be that, but those have kind of become very exclusive. They don't feel very accessible to average moviegoers. And this is a problem to me. I think that we need to be encouraging and teaching people how to appreciate the finer flavors and tastes of films, because these things are accessible to all of us. You do not have to be a tortured artist or some sort of effete art critic to appreciate it. It is accessible to everybody. That's been the great benefit of films from the time that they started. They were accessible to everybody. They were affordable, and you could basically, the value proposition on a Charlie Chaplin film in 1925 is that you could go see the Mona Lisa in your town for the cost of a sandwich, essentially. So we want to be bringing the whole family around the table. We want to be serving the best dinners possible, and we want to be teaching people how to appreciate those dinners in real time. That's what the Behind the Slate live shows are all about. I look forward to expanding the mission of that, and in the spirit of that, I'm going to be expanding the video component of this particular live show. You can now check out all the videos from our live shows on YouTube. Just search Behind the Slate Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that like button. We need those things so bad to help spread the mission of this show. I'm going to be doing more videos for all the live shows going forward, and I'm excited to announce that I will be doing live shows at Athens Ciné every month from here on out, from here to eternity, let's hope. And I can't wait to be bringing more movies to y'all very soon. Speaking of that, in late September, I'm going to be bringing George Lucas's first film, THX 1138, to the Plaza Theater here in Atlanta. Very excited about that. Get into George Lucas's horniest film by far. That'll be super fun. And then I got some Halloween stuff coming up at Ciné in October. I'm not sure I can quite announce the titles yet, but I think it'll be really, really fun. So I have now gone on for too long. Please sit back and enjoy this audio and presentation from our August 7th screening of Godzilla 1954 at Ciné in Athens, Georgia.
I like the concept of dinosaurs fucking shit up. I'm Blair.
And I'm Aaron.
And this is
Godzilla.
Have you seen Godzilla 1954 before?
Yes, I've seen it once before.
Oh, I saw it as a child.
I've never seen it in theaters, so that's pretty fun.
I love this movie.
I don't give a fuck about Godzilla, if I'm gonna be honest.
What are your thoughts on the Enola Gay?
Not a fan.
What do you know about Godzilla?
Well, my husband made a noise, and that's what he said is his favorite thing about it, the noise that Godzilla makes. I'm waiting in anticipation.
There's not a lot of things from 1954 that are still cool. I mean, unless you're on Twitter, they let some things be cool there that we can't have be cool anymore. Oh, you could buy a house for like the price of raspberries. We should bring that back.
It's a very depressing movie, but a very, very real and human story under the guise of a monster movie.
He's very peaceful and loving. Well, except when he's mad. He can be a real bitch.
Do you have a preference for the American or the Japanese Godzilla?
Japanese.
Ally. Thank you.
I kind of grew up with the MonsterVerse movies in 2014, but I mean, no one does it better than the people who made it in Japan, so.
I'm learning so many things tonight about feminism and white people that like Japan.
At the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis, I was 10 years old. My father was going to go fight Castro in Cuba, and he told me, I have a little police action I'm going to be sent to by the Army. And I thought, you're going to die, and Mom and I are going to see a mushroom cloud over Atlanta. And I was 10 years old. My generation experienced this visceral, terrifying fear. A sunset looked like a nuclear blast to us children.
But this one's just like a really good movie, and it has like, I think, a really good message to think on. What is the consequences of human endeavor to increase their military prowess? But, you know, like I also love when giant monsters like shoot lasers at each other. That's always great.
-1 is the best. Shin Godzilla comes immediately after, and then this comes right after that.
I'd like to see Godzilla fight the ongoing climate crisis. Greta Thunberg by Godzilla's side. I'd like to see an anthropocentric view on it. Think Chernobyl, think Elephant's Foot, think Fukushima, 3 Mile, and the environmental impacts after that.
Do you think it's important that people watch movies like this?
I don't think the movies have much effect in that regard. I think a person who's concerned with trying to read the signs of the times will be able to profit from seeing a thing. You can show the same movie to two people, but one person's interactivity will make him incorporate that into his larger understanding. The other's just popcorn entertainment. What can you say? You know how it is.
Hello, Athens! What's up? Yeah, give it up! Give it up! Athens, how you doing? Wow. Oh my goodness. I can't believe all y'all came out tonight. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is coming out for my very first Behind the Slate screening series here at Ciné. Yeah. I'm so happy to be back here. You know, it's kind of a trip. You know, Ciné opened during my final few months of high school here. So, you know, I got up to things in this theater that we don't need to be talking about. But I can literally trace the memories of my life in this building. And that is one of the incredible values of having a cinema in your town like this. You know, it's incredible to think back over 18 years and the way I can track my life through this space. So it's an incredible honor to be on this stage in front of all of you now, talking like this. Behind the Slate is a celebration of all things cinema. So we believe that not only should the greatest films ever made be accessible on the big screen, but also that by embracing this wonderful quality of film, that film is the only artistic medium that shows the visual passage of time. And thinking about this, we can actually use film as a window into the past. And by embracing this unique quality of film, we can not only enhance our appreciation of these incredible works of art, but we can also understand our own humanity on a deeper level. So the way this is going to work is I come up here, I'm going to give a little historical context for this movie. No spoilers, nothing like that, but things that I think will make the viewing experience a little bit more enjoyable. We're then going to watch the film, and then for those of you who want to stick around after the movie, we open up an audience discussion. I hand the microphone over to you. We're going to talk about the film we just watched together. I want to hear your thoughts, your feelings, your hottest takes, and then all this audio and video is going to be recorded as a podcast and released on the podcast feed next week. Does that sound good? Yeah. All right, so let's get right into it. Tonight, we are not just watching a film, we are watching an institution. We're talking about 71 years of entertainment, 32 Japanese sequels, 5 American sequels, cartoons, comics, hotels, statues, of course, endless numbers of t-shirts that some of you are wearing tonight. Of course, I'm talking about Godzilla. But I'm going to ask that just for this next few minutes, I want you to go back in time with me and imagine a world where Godzilla, the word Godzilla, doesn't even have any meaning. It's quite appropriate that we're doing this screening on today because on this day, 80 years ago, the world awoke to a terrifying new reality. Today was the day that Harry Truman announced to the world that the United States had dropped an atomic bomb on a civilian city. It had happened the day before, at 9:15 in the morning, as the men, women, and children of Hiroshima, Japan, were going about their Monday completely oblivious to the danger that was falling from 31,000 feet. There was a bright flash of light, a loud bang, and in an instant, Hiroshima was gone. 5 square miles of the city were obliterated in an instant. If that bomb fell over this theater, that means that downtown would be incinerated. Everything up to North Athens to the Loop, gone. All the way around Boulevard, gone. All the way out Prince Avenue, Normaltown, gone. Down Hawthorne Ave, down through 5 Points, all of the university campus, and all the way out to College Station Road. That is the size that we are talking about. Of course, it wasn't just the bomb, it was the fires that happened afterwards. It was the radiation burns, and it was the radiation poisoning. In total, 150,000 people died because of that. And as staggering as that number is, we have to remember that every single person that we're going to see on screen tonight, but also that I'm telling you about in this story, they lived through a decade of horror that combined science and brutality in ways never before imagined, from the tank to the rocket to the aircraft carrier to the Holocaust to the atomic bomb. 9 years later, a middle-aged Japanese film producer named Tomoyuki Tanaka was on an airplane ride home to Tokyo, having just suffered the biggest failure of his career. His big-budget war film, which was prophetically titled In the Shadow of Glory, had just been canceled by the Indonesian government, a small price to pay for the 4 million Indonesians killed by the Japanese occupation. And he was on his way home in the middle of the night, and he was sweating because now he had this giant hole in Toho Studios' November release schedule, and he didn't know what to do. It was the middle of the night. He looked out to those dark waves of the South Pacific flickering in the moonlight, and he thought about an American film he had seen the year before by Ray Harryhausen, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, that was about a dinosaur reawakened by an atomic test, and it wreaked havoc on New York City. Only a few days later, in those same dark waters of the South Pacific, a Japanese fishing boat by the name of Lucky Dragon No. 5 was going toward the Marshall Islands in search of tuna, when a crew member named Oishi Matakishi saw a bright flash in the distance.
All the crew members came up on deck and they looked in amazement as the sky turned into this incredible kaleidoscope of colors. It was like the most beautiful sunset that they'd ever seen in the middle of the day. As the light began to fade, little bits of dust began to rain on them like snow. As they made their way back to the mainland, the crew of the Lucky Dragon number 5 began to break out in terrible burns. They got sick. They got headaches and diarrhea. Their eyes became bloodshot and covered in mucus. Their hair began to fall out. See, what they didn't realize is they had inadvertently witnessed the United States test of the second ever hydrogen bomb, the Castle Bravo test, 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. When they get to the Japanese mainland, they're tested for radiation poisoning, and Japan freaks out. Their occupier was testing these bombs right off their coastline. Tanaka uses these headlines to pitch his monster movie to the execs at Toho Studios. Toho tells him, you need to seek out a special effects genius to see if this is even possible to do it. You need to find Eiji Tsuburaya. Now, Eiji Tsuburaya, he had been kicked out of the Japanese film industry by the American occupation because he had been working on propaganda films during the war. Tsuburaya, he was the perfect man for the job. Tanaka didn't know this at the time, but he was perfect because Tsuburaya started off as a cinematographer. He only became a special effects genius after seeing King Kong in 1933. But we have to remember, even though King Kong was incredibly popular, there were no giant monster movies. They did not exist. So for Tsuburaya, this was an unrealized ambition 2 decades in the making. Now, not all collaborators were as excited or enthusiastic as Tsuburaya. They approached several directors who all thought that a movie about a giant radioactive dinosaur was quote-unquote stupid. Weird. The man who did not was Ishiro Honda. Now, Ishiro Honda, he was 43 years old. All these guys are in their early to mid-40s. He was 43 years old. He was a devoted family man. He was a longtime friend, neighbor, and collaborator of Akira Kurosawa. He'd been working in film for about 2 decades, but his career was deeply interrupted by the war. He was drafted 3 times. He had spent 6 years in active combat, which is a crazy story. If you want to know more, talk to me after the show. On his way back to the mainland of Japan, his train passed through the wreckage of Hiroshima. He saw the devastation firsthand, and he saw that this script, which was currently titled Project G for Giant, he saw that this was not a cheesy ripoff of an American monster movie. This was an incredible metaphor for nuclear devastation. So Honda starts working on the script with his co-writers. They all get together. Honda, just like Kurosawa, knows that the only way to really heighten the devastation of the monster and the sacrifice required to stop it is that they have to work on the human details. This is an incredibly humanistic film, despite being this kind of special effects explosion. Okay, this is also the time where they come up with the name of this creature by combining the Japanese word for gorilla, Gojira, with the Japanese word for whale, Kujira, put them together, and you get gorilla whale. You get, the movie's called Gorilla Whale. So at the end of August, they finish the script, and they go into production. Honda is going to direct the actors. Tsuburaya is going to direct the special effects. To keep all this straight, they borrow a tactic from Walt Disney Studios, storyboards. This is the first Japanese film ever to be storyboarded before production began. Now, Tsuburaya, he initially wanted this monster just like in King Kong. He wanted to do it with stop motion animation. But they didn't have the budget and they didn't have the time. He tried everything that he could imagine, and as a last resort, he decides to make giant miniature sets and put an actor in a rubber suit. He was very insecure about this choice, okay? So he tries to unload the clip with every special effects trick that he can think of. They have puppets, they have matte paintings, they have in-camera double exposures throughout this entire film. As he's doing all of these special effects work, the budget skyrockets. This becomes the most expensive Japanese film ever made at the time. They show the rough cut to the execs at Toho. They hated it. Oh my God, they thought this was going to be a disaster on their hands. But that rough cut was missing the final secret sauce, which was the incredible soundtrack by Akira Ifukube. Now, Akira Ifukube, just like everyone else, in his early 40s, Everyone told him, don't take this project. It is career suicide. Ifukube, he had been a victim of radiation sickness. He said, I have to take this project. They had no budget left. They gave him an orchestra with like 12 instruments. He had a week to write and record the music. Not only does he come up with one of the most memorable soundtracks ever in the history of film, he also creates Gojira's iconic roar. He does this by dipping a glove into bow resin and rubbing it along the strings of a double bass. Now, just as they're putting the final touches on the film, the radio operator of the Lucky Dragon number 5 died from his injuries. Across the nation of Japan, headlines were posted that this was the first victim of the H-bomb. With these headlines still in their mind, people came out to Godzilla's premiere on November 3rd, 1954 in droves. It broke the single-day record for ticket sales in the city of Tokyo. It would go on to become one of the most watched movies of the year. Now, look, I'm not trying to blow smoke here, okay? Nobody was saying this was like the high art of Ozu or Mitsuguchi, okay? No one was out here saying this was like the action drama of Kurosawa. Okay, but what this was the singular expression of a shared terror that every person in that theater understood. It was the first time, visually, this had been represented, when hitherto it had only been shown in graphs and statistics and grainy photographs and American lies. This is the first film to visually represent the horror of the post-nuclear world. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a horror that we do not have to imagine because we still live with it today. Like I said, I will be back up here after the film for an audience discussion. But for now, please sit back and enjoy Toho Studios' 1954 masterpiece, Godzilla.
All right, now, at this point, we watched the film. The film is available on Criterion Channel and Max if you want to screen it, or you can find your local video rental store if you are so lucky to still have one in close proximity to you. Of course, here in Atlanta, we have the fabulous Videodrome. Always recommend going and getting your movies from them first. But at this point, we watched the movie. Now, I have to admit something. I was doing a lot of tech for this show. I was running 3 cameras that I had to bring and set up and press record on myself. I also had a recorder up in the booth, taking the audio straight out of the soundboard, and just straight up, I fucked up the recording for the audience discussion. I feel really bad about it. It was my first time in this space, okay, so I'm trying to cut myself some slack, but I blew it on the audience discussion, which is so sad because there were so many amazing characters and comments within this audience discussion. God, I loved this audience. There was a person sitting in the front row who had a tattoo of Dr. Serizawa from Godzilla on her leg. She didn't even have a tattoo of Godzilla. She had a tattoo of Dr. Serizawa. Hardcore. She also dished out an amazing fact that in the original version of the script of Godzilla, Dr. Serizawa, who's missing an eye, I believe it's because he was attacked by a wolf in China. That was like his original backstory, was that he was like, yeah, he and Dr. Yamane had gone hunting for like an abominable snowman or something, and he had been attacked by a wolf, something crazy like that. So that was really fun. There was this group of older women that they all came to the theater together. So cute. Fucking squad goals all the way. I hope that's what my advanced age looks like. And she shared a touching story about seeing this film as a little girl. I think she said she saw it when she was 6 years old, hadn't seen it since, and she didn't realize how moving the film would be. She was really taken aback by this thing that she hadn't seen since she was a little girl. Absolutely incredible. The crowd was diverse. I think we had everything from like a 13-year-old there up to like some 80-year-olds. You love to see it, man. This is what I'm saying. This is the spirit of cinema. There were some longtime listeners to this show who came out and supported. Man, it was just awesome. So I Yes, I am kicking myself that we don't have the audience discussion. What I do have is some feedback that we got from some lobby interviews after the show. Shout out to Blair Mars, our lobby correspondent in Athens from here going forward, and Abby Benefield, who shot all the video for those lobby segments. Love both of y'all. So glad to have y'all aboard. So we get to hear a little bit of the response of the audience coming out of that cinema that night. It's just so amazing, man. You get to talk to people after a movie. You get to see them hanging out in the lobby, buying extra drinks, hanging around. They want to stay in the theater. They don't want to just run to their car as quickly as possible. They want to bounce around. They want to talk to each other. They want to see what other people think. This is the magic of cinema when it's at its best, when it's human focused, when it's people first, when you're curating an environment to get people talking to each other. This is where magic happens. This is where friends get made, collaborators get found, and the spirit of movies gets to live on so that people can enjoy theatrical screenings well into the future, even when the old business models are no longer viable. Man, I love it. I love y'all. I can't wait to see you at the next screening for Behind the Slate Presents. Peace.
What did you think?
It was different.
Loved it. It's great. Never seen it before.
Me neither. It was my first time as well.
The realism of it, I think, was pretty striking.
I loved how accurate all the miniatures looked in it, like the fire trucks, like with the little fire people on it. That was pretty awesome.
Have you seen it before?
No, never seen this one before.
It was my first time seeing it too.
Oh, exciting. What do you think?
I liked it. I could appreciate the emotional moments, I think, but also I was kind of taken aback by some of the practical effects.
You kind of have to put yourself back in time and forget that we have CGI today.
I was actually surprisingly moved. I actually cried.
I was surprised at the end that I was pitying Godzilla more than the scientist at the end.
There was kind of like a major tone shift after about the first half, that more of the emotional impact actually took hold when it started zooming in on what was happening with the actual characters.
You know, I have a newfound appreciation for you and your story and your struggle. I'm sorry that they did that to you. You did spread radiation poisoning all those kids. I wasn't a big fan of that.
I loved hearing the history from Aaron before the film. He gave me chills. I loved this human communication aspect of it.
This was my first time actually doing something at Ciné. Like, I've come in, stopped by. I'm actually really stoked. Like, this is sick.
Having that discussion at the end really elevated the film and made it an enjoyable experience and helped me notice things I didn't see before.
Do you think more people should come to a Behind the Slate production?
Oh, absolutely. It's a blast.
Will you guys ever come to another Behind the Slate production again?
I wouldn't mind that at all.
Do you think more people should come?
Totally.
Definitely don't miss Behind the Slate.
Especially if they're showing films like this.
And cut.